understand the context, right? As you read these letters, understand what the actual context is here, which is this is two pen pals writing about this insane stuff. And the recent developments, so this is pretty important. The FSB wasn't really interested in doing much of anything while these letters were only in Russian and weren't getting picked up by the Western public. But after that first translation, things really began to change. After or around the 11th letter, could have been right before, I'm not sure specifically on the timing, the FSB created a team to very methodically work to spread doubt and disinformation about these published letters from the Wind of Change. And that is something that should be another indication that they're worried about it. And it makes sense that they weren't too worried about it when it was just in Russian, because, again, Russian people understanding this stuff is not going to help overthrow the Putin regime. But the Western world understanding this stuff, it is a bit of a roadmap on how to actually do it, right? One of the important things that are really the two constants that Wind of Change has been relaying in all these letters, if you take them as a whole, is that number one, and this is so vitally important, that Putin is convinced that the West will not respond militarily to whatever he does. It may be delusional. It may not be delusional. Right? I mean, there's a lot of talk that the West will respond if, say, he starts shelling Poland. Who knows? It's never happened before, so we don't know. But regardless, it's important that these letters expose the mindset that is currently shared by the people at the very top in the Kremlin and Putin. They are doing everything from the standpoint and conviction that the West will not respond militarily. So when they started intentionally bombing and shelling Ukrainian cities after their failed blitzkrieg, they're committing these war crimes because they're convinced the West won't respond militarily. And so far, they've been right. The other key constant throughout all of these letters is the Wind of Change's understanding that nuclear saber rattling is just that. It's just bark from the position of the Kremlin. The Western media eats it up every time. They just always amplify any kind of official spokesperson's messages about how you do this or you do that, then we'll respond. We're reserving our right to respond with a nuclear attack if so and so, or whatever they're saying, it gets amplified. And it has been extremely effective because people in the West are very much afraid of that possibility. But what these letters do from that regard is this assertion by the Wind of Change that is the Kremlin tactic. Because so long as the West is scared of a nuclear attack, which will be just just absolutely insane. Like, that would lead to the end of the world. There are so many people involved in actually launching nuclear weapons. It's not like Putin can press a button himself. There are things there are at the end of the day safeguards, and nobody wants the end of the civilization, including the very most evil, psychopathic people that occupy the top ranks within the Kremlin. All right. But it feeds back into number one, right? So number two is that the nuclear saber rattling is just an empty threat. But because that threat is working, that gives them more conviction that the West won't respond militarily.